Hi everyone, and welcome back to Wednesdays Live. Today, I'm going to do a scene from Sorrento, looking out towards the Bay of Naples, and the subject will be composing a picture with warm and cool colors, or another way of doing it, maybe you could say dark and light colors, or a contrast of, say, vivid and less vivid colors. Some other examples how you do that might be the things that we see all the time. Maybe a very colorful field of flowers, and then it's mostly reds, a little bit of green, and then all the blues of the background. Winter sunrise, mostly cool blues, some reds and some yellow oranges. Another example might be just this afternoon magic moment light, where there's some things are in shadow and they're cool, and then some things are illuminated, so they got that warm golden hour light. Or just maybe the local color of the objects. You have a lot of, say, the orange or subdued orange brick kind of colors, and then this blue of the sky. So the component here that's common to all of these, whether it's dark, light, warm, cool, vivid, or subdued, is that it's a principle of a lot and a little. You've got a lot of one and a little bit of the other. And usually that'll work into what we call figure and ground sort of situation, where the thing that has more area will be considered the ground, and the thing that has less area will be considered the figure, and will most of the time tend to be the focal point. It's like a word on a big white page. So different arrangement today. I apologize, I had to move the operation downstairs because of the flies and the ladybugs this time of year. They're diving in and out of the paint, and I didn't want you to have to watch that. So we're going to be, the lighting isn't exactly ideal, I know, but I'll have to make do until we have a couple of hard freezes down in the 20s, and all those bugs are done for the winter. Now, how to do the draw on this. It looks complicated, but you just have to, you can't let a subject bully you. You got to find the big shapes and, the big contrasts of dark and light, and deal with those, and forget about all that stuff, the verandas and the railings and the windows and the TV antennas and all that stuff. All of that gets put in later. We just don't let these things bully us. So what do we look for here? Well, we look for, as always, key verticals and key horizontals. So even though there's curves and things like that, the back line, the horizon, the actual horizon, it's about the 2/3 mark, isn't it? So I'm going to roughly pencil that in. And then we've got another thing you could do, is you could look at this shape of the sky, which is sort of it's a little more over here, it's not there. And you can correct that. So I'm going to just that trees. So here's that building there. Now we've got a tangent there where that top of that part of the building touches the horizon line there. We're going to move that down just a bit. Then we've got and another line here. Put your pencil on it so that you can see how it comes. Got a cascading business down there. And then we're going to refine this shape. And remember, they don't have to be dead on. This is pretty much a straight line. And there's yeah, okay, so some lovely ins and outs. Now, tops of things, remember there's going to be some, it looks like I need to go a little higher on this. So I'm just going to duplicate my lines further up. Once I've got the right ones in, I erase the wrong ones. Always draw the new line before you erase the old one so that you don't go back and accidentally and like I say, all that stuff is going to get painted later. Now we've got a roadway here curving away. Classic narrow, curvy Italian road with a road below that. And there's some building action down here. So, hi, Steve. So now I'm going to make this silhouette of these buildings a little more clear. There's some. So for the purposes of this one, it's a little bit of these warmer yellow orangey colors and a bit of the yellow greens, and mostly blues and blue violets and grays and things like that are so it's a lot of blues and gray colors and a little bit of these orange or yellowish type hues. And again, like I say, it doesn't have to be all a color thing. It could be a value thing. It could be more darks than lights or vice versa. There's some archways in there. We're not going to draw that stuff yet because we're going to paint that stuff. The main thing we want to get is these big shapes like this. Oops, keep tipping my board. Like I say, it's a bit of a hi, Michael. Catch as catch can type arrangement today by virtue of all the bugs. And hopefully no one else is having to deal with these awful things either. Okay. Drawing is pretty much complete. I might put in for these little Seems to be some veranda. It's actually, we're standing on like a square up here, overlooking. This road goes underneath the square. It's a very interesting type place. So how to go about planning the washes. I think I'm going to do the warmer colors first and then go into the bluer tones next. I'm going to forget about the buildings and the windows and the stuff, and I'm going to just kind of squint and then say I see a progression of yellow ochre, sienna into yellow green to gray green to in this sort of general vicinity there. But I also see a little bit of a very pale, it's getting into the evening there. We're looking mostly north. Sun is setting over here. So there's a little bit of warmth in the sky too. So I'm going to start with a very pale yellow ochre wash all through here and get stronger in here and then get some yellow greens. And I'm not worried about these colors bleeding into these other areas because the other colors are darker and they will cover them up. So we need a big puddle of yellow ochre, runny paint, which after I run it down to this area, I'm going to maybe reach into the oranges and the to make a less runny mix and come over into here. If a little bit goes in there, that's all right. It'll be okay. So, runny paint, you can see it run there. Big brush, 11 by 14, Saunders cold press. Get my bead going. Don't have to worry about it getting into the trees or the other buildings because just let that peter out down there. That's all going to be darker later. Now, more yellow ochre, stiffer mix, a little bit of orange. Into this area. That looks dark, I know. It looks dark. But I'm going to run some of the runny stuff into here. The board is at a 45-degree angle. That's why if this was flat, this would all be moving into places we don't want. I'm going to be whoa, not that much. Good heavens. Be careful. So that was the burnt sienna. Hello, Janelle. Coming in here with the burnt sienna. Oh, maybe a little more. Let's get some reddish in there even. Now I'm going to go to the yellows. I know, that looks kind of crazy, right? And I'm going to take water and just run that down. And we're going to dry this. So, yes, it's going to look a little bit tie-dyed at first. So I'm going to mute us so we don't have to listen to the hairdryer. Okay, now we've got that done. We can start thinking about some blues. And the sky is the thing to be thinking about now. So first thing I need to do is mop some of this out so that it's not everywhere and get a good blue mix going. Okay. A little bit of water. I'm going to go with the cerulean. Runny mix again. I'm going to be bringing that down, petering it out, and carefully painting, beginning to carefully paint around that, the yellows and the oranges. If I get in here, that's okay, because that's going to be bluish grayish, and it's going to be darker. Same down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting a little bit of a different blue and some reddish colors to get a little more violet in some of these colors, and start to suggest the idea of the shadow. So again, bead. Load it good. I need to start going with a little more water. I don't mind if I get into the yellow greens, because yellow and blue make green, and that's green. So notice I'm just going to water now, so that it gets, and I'm really rinsing that brush good, getting clean water, so that I get a very pale blue at the horizon. Blot that brush off, drink up some of this excess. Let that come down in there. Going back to the blue that I had, maybe put a little bit of the cobalt turquoise in the mix, because it's ever so slightly darker. Maybe not that dark. Get some water. Again, here I have to be careful. Put that in here, because it's going to be cool and it's going to be dark. A little more paint. A little more paint. Try to keep a bead. Now everything down here is in shade. So I'm going to start mixing in ultramarine to change the character of this, and a little bit of some red. Still runny paint. Okay, into this. We'll try to keep a bead going there. Now over here, that looks dark. I know this looks darker than that, but it's going to dry lighter. It's just, if necessary, I will come in here with my sprayer and so I have to follow the shadow of the character of the shadow here. we can, you know, play with that too. We don't have to get it exactly right. We just have to get it interesting. Now into this, a little more red. I know that looks crazy, doesn't it? We want crazy. Crazy is good. It's going to look like a tie-dyed t-shirt. And to keep it all, the secret here is we want to keep the surface, some paint or liquid on the surface so that the paint can move in it. And to help with that, I may even spritz it from a distance. To help it move. And that, well, let's see. We could work up here with the, I'm going to rinse this brush out. Another thing I could do is I do like that little car down here. While there is water on the surface, I take a small brush and I'm going to lift out a light spot. And I might even, oh, I don't know. There's a awning over here. So what I've done is there was water still on the surface and the paint is swimming in the water. Wherever there's water, where there's water, there's life, just like the NASA guys tell us. I'm going to get a smaller brush, maybe not that small. This is a stiffer nylon hair brush, and I'm going to, into these blues, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow ochre to get a green, maybe some of the brighter yellow. Not too crazy green, I want it. Put a little bit of lavender in that greenish mix for a grayish green, sage sort of green. Now these aren't the only greens, there's going to be darker greens coming in here. Blot that off, I might get in just into some yellow green. I mean just some dirty yellow. It's the CAD yellow, but in the palette it gets dirty. A little bit of that down here too. Back to the grayer greens. Because I just painted there's water on the surface. So if I put a runny mix in, you see how it disappears. What I need to do is blot that brush and get a stiffer mix of, say, yellow and some blue, but creamier paint, so that's slow moving. Touching that in, and it's staying mostly where I put it, but it's bleeding out and softening at its edges there. So now let's get some, say, Prussian, stiff Prussian blue to to make a different character of green. And that's enough of that. Okay. There are some greens going on down here, but they are much, much darker. But heck, let's get into them. A little bit of red in that so that it's not same character. So that's slow, well, I mopped out the runny paint so that you can see that this is slow moving paint. A little bit of Prussian. Over here, let's get some yellow in that. Too much yellow. It's hanging plants of some sort. A lot of that action over here too, but this is putting turquoise in that because it's a cooler green. It's not the last time we will be visiting this area. Looks like a mess now. We're at quite definitely at the holy mess stage. Let's put a little bit of alizarin in that. Or quinacridone rose, our alizarin substitute, to take the green into a murkier area. Okay, there's a little bit of that over here too, isn't there? See, as the brush runs out of paint, I can make these dry brush marks. Okay, where else can we work? A very, very pale blue. There's some blue hiding up here in the corner. I'm just going to wet it. And a lot of water. And I'm going to very distant shore of Naples over there. Vesuvius is right back about there. Okay, now let's start getting into, oh my goodness, there's a whole lot of crazy dark greens over in here. I'm not going to get to those because I want some murkiness to happen when I start to paint that stuff. What we need now is a larger brush, and we need a kind of grays, purple grays and stuff. And slowly, we're going to start to see this become the thing that it is, rather than the abstract expressionist tie-dye t-shirt that it seems to be now. So a good gray is ultramarine blue, any blue will do, and burnt siennas. Now, the more blue you have in the mix, it'll be a steelier kind of blue. The more brown you have in the mix, the more of a warm gray. This blue here is pretty much going to be the lighter areas of the building. So I think I need to maybe do a little drawing as to where things are. Just to help me out. Again, don't be bullied by these things. Hi, Julie. It's just look for horizontals and verticals, and where are they? How big are they? Because a building, I mean, the way things are built, it's all horizontals and verticals. In perspective, don't worry about the rules. They only apply to new construction on a flat planet. And this is very old, and the world is round. So you hold your pencil out to see what's vertical, when either in a reference or whether you're actually there, and then hold it against the roof line, hold it against the ground line or whatever, and get to feel in your hand that angle. So where these things occur, then we know. And the lines will go around. It's almost like that the vanishing point is where the hands of the clock are, and the lines come out just like hands on a clock. So I'm going to get a biggish but softish brush, which would be the Oriental. But I do want these colors to separate a bit. I do my roof line up here, start at the top, work down. Satellite dish. There's a bit of a bead happening there. Over here I'm going to do the same stuff but a little more water. Let's put a little more brown in some parts of it. See, there's water on the surface still. So I can put new paint in. If it's runny paint, it's going to merge with it and blend almost completely. If it's stiffer paint, it's going to soften, but more or less stay where you put it. Here it's still wet, so when I put something in, bottoms of windows will go like, and we will work a little more on this later, you'll see. That's what we're doing for now. Merge into our tree area over here. Now, I'm going to get some lavender in the mix there. While there's water on the surface, you can put in new color and it will merge. If it gets too dry, you can't work there anymore without creating a blossom. So either spritz it or wait till it dries and do a glaze later. Okay, now I'm working into this area down here. Oh, splatter. Underneath this awning, it's rather dark, so I'm going to stab right into my paint so it's creamy, and I'm going to touch under there to create a very deep, dark area. I could also do that up here. There's some sort of the tops of these windows, I'm going to do that and just let it drizzle down. Now into this very dark mix, I'm going to put in a little bit of yellow ochre to make a deep, dull, dark green. Maybe a little Prussian too, just to... This is slow-ish moving paint, but it's not cool enough, so I'm going to put some blue into it. This is plant material that's hanging down the side of this area here. Now, I'm going to bring it to where the road is. Stop there. Rinse that, blot that, because blot your brush, because if you don't, you're going to be bringing more water in. Well, thank you, Michael. Don't worry, I still have time to screw it up. I'm going to be dipping right into the creamy paint. Maybe I'll put that up here so I can, so red and Prussian, that's actually even runny, but I want paint that basically almost doesn't move. I'm going to start touching it in the very, very darkest areas up here. You probably can't see this on your devices, but there are for lack of a better term, I'm just going to call it a lot of hangy down stuff. And just as I was putting these in here, I'm more or less doing the same thing over here, but the whole thing is much darker, deeper values. Now I will have created a very wet edge right here. Let's get some right into the alizarin. Right by the edge of that walkway there. I don't know, there's something going on here. It's just dark. So I'm worried about where is it? How big is it? Some, a little bit of that going on in here too, but okay, this road. That is a deep steely iron blue. So ultramarine into that same mix, a little bit of burnt sienna, maybe some cerulean, titch of water. It's a little bit lighter than this, so that's too dark. So a bit more water. This is slow moving paint. And I'm just going to kiss that. See if I can get leave the top of that vehicle. We have two highways. I'm going to put something a little lighter in it, the lavender. Or alternatively, put a little bit of water. Just kissing where I painted the greens so that I don't physically blend them. I want those edges to just soften one right next to the other. Now, there's a bit of something a little bit warmer to the side of that. And then back into that same steely dark mix down here. So just a slight difference in the color. I'm going to leave a little bit of a light line there for that guardrail. Notice that you get a straight line pulling on the side of the brush, not trying to use that point, because if you get on that point, you're going to wobble and your heartbeat is going to wobble it. Something going on over here. Doggone it, I got flies down here as well. How about that? But we can tint that line a little darker later. Now, the big shadows over here. So I want something more purplish, lighter gray violet up here, darker gray violet down here. I'm leaving a bit of these. I might even take a damp brush while this is still moist. And lift some paint out to get a little variation that way. Okay, here we go. Ultramarine, well, let's do it down here. We need a big puddle. This is a big shape. Ultramarine blue. Some alizarin to purple it up. Julie, you've raised the key question. So you see somebody paint a watercolor and it may look like, gosh, he only took an hour or 2 hours to do that. I can't remember how long I stood up there looking at this thing and then looking at the picture and thinking about how I would paint it and planning the thing. So it's almost like a military operation where people are weeks and weeks planning something in the Pentagon, then a training exercise, and then they go out and they do the thing, and it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So that's a great question. That is a really great question. So, and then we have to figure out, well, am I going to count in all the time that I spent doing bad versions of other pictures? So, up here I'm going to make the more purplish gray. Oops, sorry for the earthquake. I hit it with my head. for this area up here. Here we go. A little bit darker as I go down, so I'm dipping into the other. I'm painting right over and into those things that I've done before. Now apparently what happens is in some of these places, some shadow gets and some shadow doesn't get. So as I go downhill, I'm going to be getting into the darker mix. And I can see that I have not made enough of it. That's still wet, so I can, runny into runny disappears. Leave a little bit of a line there. Down here I'm going to mix in more blue and a little bit more burnt sienna. And then we're going to revisit these areas. A little more burnt sienna down here so that there's some variation in it. If it's one flat color, like you were painting the wall, bathroom wall or something, see, that was, well, I'm going to leave it, actually. I want the purplier red coming down through here, just touching that. And maybe just a bit more blue at the bottom. There is some variation in the old stone. There are some areas up here that I need to, okay, for example, the shadow side of that building there needs to be a runnier, redder mix. So sienna, maybe dirty sienna. Nope. Let's see. Let's get some sienna. Some of this, maybe some of that. I'm going to go to the lavender so that it's not the same all the way down. Leave some light. Okay, that's, I think, more of what I'm looking for. So I'd like this to be a little straighter. There are some verandas. Hi, Ann. Happy birthday. Now that's going to create a light spot because I put runny into a surface. So I'm going to have to be a little more careful with that, but I can cover it up with something, I think. That happened too. So as the shine goes off of this, I will be able to do a few things. Now over here, we haven't worked there for a while, so we can do this side of a building where the one juts out in front of the other. We can do the darker marks on the soffits. There are some nice little railings and things like that. We got a well, I'm just going to let this area work down here. I think I am going to pull a damp, blotted out brush right along there to try and recover that. I need that to get drier before I can... Hello, Susan. Let's stab right into the Prussian, right into the red. Create a dark purplish sort of color. I guess that's a little too creamy. Need to put my finger on this. Now there's some business under here. There's some windows here. Let them melt in. Patio roof there, something there. Those are going to get tinted a little bit darker. There's some, it looks like arched windows that got blocked in. At some point. Needs to be a light pole, I think. Little bit of an eave under the roof. One of those arched windows over there. Bigger brush, bigger brush. There is some bluish, purplish business as we come down to this road here. And this is creamy paint going into a damp surface, so the edge of it is going to soften, but the placement of the mark is going to remain pretty much where you put it. So I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to put in the final marks. Okay, so now I can look at it and I can say I need to adjust some values. For starters, Bay of Naples needs to be a little darker. I'm going to glaze that, which is going to push this out even more. This could stand to be a little bit darker. I think I'm okay over here. I need to glaze those things, and then I'm going to put in some final marks, crazy little darks for the this, that, and the other. Okay, so let's start with glazing the Bay of Naples. We need some plain blue, maybe some aqua-ish blue. Relatively runny paint. Okay. And I can take advantage of the existing color and leave a little bit of that behind as well. Bit more blue as I get to the bottom. Does deepen up a bit. A glaze is an adjustment to value or hue, which is done with runny paint on a pre-existing surface that you painted, and it's bone dry. That's the important thing, it has to be bone dry. I'm gonna tint that as well, put a little green in that mix. I'm gonna tint this a bit darker. I think that wants that. Maybe a bit more here, it's too light over there. Okay, how about next thing? Yeah, there's a little something under here. There's a little bit of green there or something. Rinse that. A lavender blue to tint so that that just doesn't jump out at us. Now, an alternative way of doing that, because that's thick paint and they're liftable colors, I could have just dampened that area and do a lift, and might have actually been the better way of doing it. So I'm going to mop that off, blot it. I'm just going to get some lavender and put up here, and I am going to glaze these a bit darker, again, leaving some of the original color behind to get that old-timey weathered look. I could do the same on the right to get a bit more weatheredness looking. Maybe in there too. Yeah. Let's stop on that. Let's put in some stiff darks, which is going to be the ultramarine and maybe some red. Not that much red. On the plantings. It's quite dark down there. The car. You know what? I talked about lifting. Get a brush, clear water. There is a light bit coming down here. Press, don't rub, press. How about some in here? I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to press that. In the road itself, okay. Yeah, there's a hood in front of that car. I'm going to make that a little bit darker too. So what I'm lifting off here, I'm putting on there. And then underneath it, I'm going to put the deeper color for what it is there. And there's some strong darks. There's something in here. I think there's like a sidewalk here or something. So I remember there was like a pedestrian area. Same. A few in here, a few darks. Yeah, underneath this portico or porch or series of porches. Okay, yeah, that looks nice. Okay. Oh, I need to tint these uprights. There. There's some strong darks in certain places here, which is going to require okay, let's peel and see. Oh, let's see. What else could we do? There's, a couple of odd windows here and there. Okay, let's do the peel and the reveal. Sometimes that will tell us something. Oh, hello, Asya, thank you. So actually, yeah, we could do a couple of fun things. We could get a small pointy brush. We could put some interesting highlights here or there with the color called Jaune Brilliant, which is white with a little bit of yellow ochre in it. Let's see. Down here, I think, down by the harbor. Things like that. We don't know why, we're just going to do it. That lavender color actually is very good for if you get into it kind of creamy. Stick the brush right down into it so that it's tube strength paint. You can make cool areas in shadow. Like, let's put a guardrail here, because there is one there. There's actually people walking in there if you can see it. The trick to painting things in shadow is looking at the entire situation and making sure that you're not falling prey to looking in one area all by itself. And what will happen is if you just look right in here, I'm going to make the car a little bit more, it'll look white, but in fact, it's not quite white because it's in shadow. But what happens if you're only looking right here, your eye adjusts for the level of illumination and the distance without you even noticing. And you'd think you see lighter than what you're actually seeing. So something that looks white probably has to be more like that. You can add little details within the shadows. Yeah, there was some stuff over here. And I think I would leave it at that until, I look it over and say, do I want to keep putting stuff in there like this? There are some little businesses like that, but you want to be careful with that. You don't want to get carried away. Okay, that's it. But the big idea here was, well, that window should show through to the water. The big idea is that you have a lot of one kind of color or one value and very little of the other, so that it becomes a kind of an interesting focal point. That being the focal point there. I think I could put a little more texture in here. Yeah. Sorrento. Beautiful, beautiful place. But be sure to keep what's in shadow within the shadow. So hope you enjoyed that. Next week, I have an idea that I think you guys would like. I'm going to talk about how to change the lighting in a painting to give it an entirely different feel or time of day, and that is not as complicated as you might think. It's actually just a function of keeping the important value relationship of the sky, the surface of the earth or the water, and the things that are sticking up out of the earth in the correct value range. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.